Welcome, everybody. It's time once again for the next chapter with Charlie Hedges as he explores turning the page on his life and yours. Hey, Charlie.
Hey, Paul. I'll tell you, are we turning the page today? Instead of sitting with you in studio right now, I'm sitting on my sofa in my apartment in Lisbon, Portugal. I was out today roaming the town and finding myself surrounded, for the first time since I've been here, surrounded by throngs of tourists. Man, I have to tell you, I'm a tourist, but I have a distaste for tourists. I have a distaste for crowds. It's funny. The place that I'm hanging out really doesn't have that much tourists. And I think, or not that much, that many tourists. I think that tourists kind of expect nationals to behave like the tourists want them to behave, that suits their personal desires. And it's just a crack up. And the nationals are so patient. Life is different in a foreign country. And truthfully, isn't that precisely what makes a foreign country so attractive? It's foreign.
Yeah.
But now this is a different kind of trip for me because my wife is in London with her sister, niece, and my son's wife. And so they have a girls' trip in London. So I have 10 days alone in Lisbon. And as a result, I'm spending more time than usual on a trip in my apartment, seeing fewer sights because I'm reading and writing. But still, it's a different place. It's a nice apartment. It's different. So I'm not at home. So the whole thing feels different. So I am definitely in Lisbon.
Okay. And what are you there for? Just to see? You're not there to see the sights. Why are you in Lisbon?
To hang. That's just, I wanted to do this. I wanted to go to Europe because I'm a Europhile. And I wanted to spend a month. Now, I'm only spending close to 3 weeks, but I wanted to spend a month, stay in one apartment, and maybe take side trips to different cities, who knows, but just not to see any sights because I've already seen all the sights I need to see. And it's just to adjust, adapt, and become enamored with another culture. And I'll tell you what, Portugal is the place, man.
I hear people say that all the time. So are you assuming the life of a Portuguese? Is this a trial run to see if you could just live an ordinary life in a foreign country?
Well, I don't know about that, but do you know, I just read before I came on this trip that Portugal is the number one destination for Americans seeking to live internationally.
Really?
So it's probably a lot for baby boomers. But Portugal is the number one place because the cost of living is so reasonable here. And the Portuguese are just so friendly. And I've got to tell you, Paul, the food is stupid.
Really good. Well, I would expect that.
Oh, my goodness. It truly rivals Italy.
Wow, that's saying something because Italy's supposed to be at the top here. Every food
Italy and Peru are your top cuisine places for our type of food. Not Asian food, but our type of food. Now, on my first day, you know what I did? I got here like at 8:00 in the morning.
Right.
And my driver picked me up at 9. My Airbnb had a guest that day, so they had to clean up, and they couldn't take me till after 3. So what I did is I set up a tour with a private tour guide, and it turned out that he was not a tour guide; he was a tour driver. So he would take me to spots and say, you're on your own.
There.
And I said, bummer, I'm on my own. So the first place we went to is this really, really delightful city outside of Lisbon called Sintra. That's really quite popular, and it's quite a touristy place.
Okay.
We went early enough in the morning that we avoided the tourist crowds, and I took this tuk-tuk, and a tuk-tuk is a motorcycle. It's like, what do they call them in Asia, where they carry the people on a cart?
Yeah, it's like a motorcycle, but it has wrapped around it some sort of little cab.
Yes, it has a little cab, open air cab.
Right.
And of all people that was driving mine, I had a pirate. I'm telling you, the guy had a pirate hat. He had long braided hair, a beard, earring in his nose, filled with tats. And I found out from my driver, he is the best tuk-tuk tour driver.
That's him.
In Sintra. And he took me all over the place, and he taught me all about, what Lisbon is the heart of? Are the Freemasons.
What? The Freemasons? I know almost nothing about Portugal, except it's next to Spain and speaks a language that to me sounds like Spanish, but has long ago diverged into a separate tongue here, Portuguese.
Oh, it's not even close to Spanish.
Right. But to my ear, they both have a similar sound.
They have a similar ring to them, but they are totally different languages. I am in a country, I might as well be in Czechoslovakia. I am in a country where I don't know the language. At least they use Latin letters.
Right.
So I can kind of read street names, and I go by Google Maps and find where I'm going to walk to, and incessantly get lost and just enjoy every minute of it. But
so what is the appeal? This is your next chapter. What is the appeal of going to a place and not being an American tourist and staying in an American-style hotel and having an American breakfast and somebody speak to you in English? What's the appeal of pretending, if not for a short while, to blend in and be one of the locals?
Well, except I'm not in a hotel.
Right. I know. You're blending in with the local. This is like you really live there. You're in an apartment.
Yeah. I'm in an apartment the guy has 4 Airbnbs. This was his home for 20 years. It's in a place called Príncipe Real, which is an older area that has become kind of culturally trendy. Mm-hmm. But it is culturally trendy to the Portuguese, not to tourists. Tourists don't quite know about it yet, and it's so delightful. One of the things that I wrote about in my blog over the weekend. I'm still writing my blogs, and I wrote, to be creative, you must find your spot. We need spots. We need our place where we're comfortable. It's like, I'm reminded of this hippie book I read in the 1960s by Carlos Castaneda called The Teachings of Don Juan.
Yes, right.
And so who knows what kind of psychedelics was going on with that.
Right.
But the first thing that Don Juan had his student do was he had to sit on the front porch and he had to find his spot on the front porch. And so he had to just go from spot to spot to spot, and it took him 2 days, and he found his spot. This was where he belonged and he was comfortable. Well, that metaphor works perfectly for me. What I have to do is I have to find a spot. So I have to have a spot for my morning rituals, where I can meditate and do my readings and do my praying and do that. And then I must have a cafe, even though I don't typically eat breakfast at home. I eat breakfast here. Mm-hmm. And so I now have found my cafe.
Your spot.
And I've been there 4 days in a row. 2 fried eggs, granola and fruit over acai, which is, I don't know what it is. It's this dark purple stuff.
Yeah, right.
That is, instead of yogurt, that is just absolutely amazing.
So what is the appeal, though? I asked the question again of assuming another identity. It's almost like you're a doppelganger. You're pretending to be one of them. You have no urge to go out and see the tourist sites or mingle with the fellow Americans. You just hang out in your apartment and go to a local cafe like you would here. What's the appeal of assuming the identity of a local in a foreign country, of acting as if...
That's a great question, Paul. That's a great question. I think it is the difference, the change that really means something. It's in a different spot. It is just... And I think adapting to the culture is so fun. You know what I forget to do when I'm at restaurants?
What?
I forget to ask for the check. And I'm sitting there thinking, where's the server? And I have written about this so many times. And then I realize if I don't ask for a check, I am there all day.
Yeah. There isn't the urge there to kick you out like there is here. They want to turn the table here in the United States.
They are not. There is no desire to turn the table, and there is a queue. I'm sitting at these cafes,
right?
And there's a queue. There's a, that's European for line,
right?
And there's a line of people. One place I was having coffee and writing today, and all I had was coffee, was one latte and one small bottle of sparkling water. I was there for probably an hour, and I bet there were a dozen people waiting in line to get in.
How anti-American.
The servers could care less.
I'd kick you out of my restaurant. You're taking up a valuable seat. I turn the table. Make me some more money.
Well, you know what I do that no one does in Europe?
What's that?
I leave tips.
Oh, yeah. That's a strange thing, too. The one time I went to Ireland, I tipped, and they said, no, they're almost insulted if you tip them.
I know, but so like on €16, my breakfast cost about €16 because I eat so much, I had so much stuff, buttered croissant, hot chocolate,
right?
All sorts of different things.
And what's the exchange rate right now, so we can figure that out? What is €16 to translate to dollars?
It's $93 for every 100. So they're
close.
very close.
Yeah, it's close. Okay.
So they're very close. So it would probably be about $20.
Right.
And so I leave 10%. I leave €2, and she just looks at me like,
what am I going to do with these?
I just left her the moon.
But it's strange. See, you're doing something I don't think many do. I've never done. The appeal to me to travel was that you have an agenda every day. I got to go there. I got to see this. I got to get to the next town. I gotta. There's a long list of gotta and a short time to get them all done because I'm leaving on Tuesday. I'm leaving next week. So I got to do all these things on my list. I got to see this. I got to go there. I got to try this. You're traveling in a way I've never done. You got to do nothing. You wake up, you go have a coffee, you go back to your apartment, you read, you write, you snooze. I can't imagine spending money to live like I do at home. I could stay home and do that. Oh.
But you can't. You're home.
Yeah.
It's the non-familiarity. And then the people are different. They walk different. They talk different. They act different. You're definitely in a foreign country, and the sites, the architecture is just amazing. Portuguese architecture is very influenced by the Moors.
Mm-hmm, of course.
So there's a lot of tiles, and every building is.
And did they do that alabaster wash that they put on buildings? The Moors used to, I don't know how they made it, but it was a chalky kind of white wash they put on all their buildings.
Yes, and that they don't try. And in Portugal, it's not been U.S.ified yet, so they're not trying to sandblast it and paint it.
Right.
They're allowing it to turn black in places, and
right.
It's just
to age.
It's so cool because it's not it's not pristine, it is antique, and it is magnificent. Lisbon is absolutely magnificent.
So is it a state of mind? Is it a different energy in your place? Or is it just change? It's good. You love change. Most of us hate change. Most of us like the familiar. I want to sit in my chair, sleep in my bed with my pillow, and follow my daily routine. Change is uncomfortable for most people, but that's what travel does.
There's a caveat to that.
Okay.
And that's about finding my spot.
Right.
Is that if I have change just for the sake of change, but I don't have my familiar place that is my place, that I'm comfortable. When I go to my cafe, the servers know me.
Right.
Today when I went in, she said, "Let me guess," and she just rattled off in Portuguese what I was going to eat, and I said that was it. And although I would like to try another restaurant for breakfast, I won't. I will go there every day just because I know them, and it's my comfortable place, and right. I can sit there and I can do my morning writing. And
so what do you say to people? I've always thought this was exotic, to own places in other parts of the world, not just to go visit a place. Like having a vacation home when I was a kid. I lived in the Midwest, so everybody's dream was to have a cabin up north in Michigan or Minnesota. That was always the dream. You went up north. The big cities in the south part of the state, everybody went up north for the weekend to their little retreat, their cabin. Is this kind of the same thing? Because when you go to the cabin, you live a different life, but everything's there. Your clothes are there. You know where the store is. You're not uncomfortable. You're in a familiar surrounding because you've been there before. Is it the same thing?
That's probably a little bit too familiar for me. Mm-hmm. I like to try a new place, and especially since I'm hanging and I'm here for so many days. I'm not here for just like 2 days.
Yeah, right.
I'm here in this one place. In this one spot, I'll be here for about 14 days. And it's already become very comfortable for me. It's 2 bedrooms. I don't need the second bedroom, but I like the space.
Yeah, right.
And it's probably, it's very nicely appointed. Has a TV that I've never even attempted to turn on. I don't.
You wouldn't know what they were saying anyway. They're in Portuguese.
I wouldn't know what they were saying, and I just. I'm not that into TV. I will read or.
So do you feel the impulse to go all the way to learn the language, to speak like a local, to totally fit in?
Portugal's a place I could do that. Portugal could be a place I could return to regularly. And so I would not want to be necessarily proficient, but at least somewhat conversational.
Yeah, right.
That I could get around. I could see me, I've thought so often about taking Spanish because Spanish is something I could use at home.
Yeah, right.
I couldn't use Portuguese at home unless I met a Brazilian somewhere.
Right, exactly. Well, I can see the smile on your face. I can hear the giddiness of just being in another spot. And what I find so strange is there's no impulse to go and explore. Just the fact of being in another spot seems to be intoxicating to you here. If that's a hard word.
That is partly true. I do like exploring. I went exploring today. Mm-hmm. And I went because I'm outside of Príncipe Real, I went into the heart of Príncipe Real, which is just absolutely gorgeous. The architecture is amazing. And then another little trendy spot called Chiado. I went there and, so I had sort of my day. Tomorrow, I imagine I will not do anything except go to breakfast, come back and write, and then go out to dinner oh man, I had dinner at a steak place that was the most amazing steak in the world.
So what is it about Portugal that attracts you there? Because you've been to other places in the world, and I never heard the urge to stop and just sit in I don't know, you were in Denmark or something, or Uganda. You go to Uganda regularly. I never hear you come back and say, I just went to you go there for a purpose, you achieve something, and you leave. I never hear the urge, I'm going to stay another 2 weeks and just sit here in an apartment in Uganda.
Yeah, Uganda's not a place for that. I was one of my last trips to Uganda was 18 days, and I had 22 meetings in 18 days.
Right.
So I was totally exhausted. Here, there is no agenda. I have no plan. Now, my wife in Europe with the girls, they are going to Scotland, to Wales.
Got to see it all. Yeah, right.
They've got every day planned out. They know what they want to see, what they're going to do. That would drive me up a wall. You
get up in the morning, and I would have an agenda, and that's what used to drive my wife and daughter crazy, or anybody who traveling, because it's like, we got this agenda. I'm like the tour guide, and they're like, let's not do anything today. Let's just wander. Let's just relax. I'm like, relax. We can do that at home. You can sleep when you get home. We've got things to do. I'm just saying that's me. I'm like your wife. I have an agenda when I'm travel. I want to see it all, because I don't know if I'm ever going to go back to that place. In fact, I'm probably not going to go back to that place. There's other places to see.
Well, this is a new one for me. I usually go places, but at very leisurely and not really well planned. Like I'll have my place that I'm staying, and I will walk out with my backpack on, and I say, I'm headed east.
Yeah, stick your finger in the wind.
Go that direction, and whatever I find is wonderful. And
right.
And if I don't find anything, I just keep walking, and I walk around and get lost and find my way back. And here, you know, what's really nice is the Ubers. They have you can use your Uber app from the United States here.
Huh. So
I can get an Uber, and Uber Blacks for the distance I travel, so which are Teslas and Mercedes and BMWs, they are €3 more than an Uber X.
Wow. Than
so
Uber
there's nothing more. It costs nothing, and I'm riding in Mercedes and BMWs.
Yeah, you're riding in style.
And
right.
Brand new Teslas.
Well, I wonder how many of your listeners are listening like I am saying, Charlie, I could never do that. First of all, travel alone seems bizarre to me. I've never taken a trip alone, ever. I've taken business trips alone, but I was meeting somebody there. I had a meeting like in Uganda. So I've done that, where I flew somewhere. I flew to a convention. But I've never gotten on a plane, landed somewhere by myself, and wandered around. And if I did, I certainly didn't just go hang out in an apartment.
Well, this is a first for me. I've wanted for the longest time to go to a place in Europe and spend a month. It has been part of my dream, and I was going to be this year, and then my wife decided to join, but she was going to go on another place, which, as much as I love being with my wife, I was kind of saying, no, I was going to be alone, because I'm the introvert.
Yeah, right.
I mean, you know, we work out of the same house, and we don't see each other all day. Her office is on the bottom floor at the front of the house. My office is on the top floor at the back of the house. So we can go all day.
Never the twain
and never even see each other.
So you seem to have a fascination with this monastic life. You study the life of the great Catholic Christian mystics who lived a contemplative life, by our standards, a very quiet, lonely life, perhaps. You like that solitude and that separateness. Is that what you seek in Portugal here?
Yeah, precisely what I'm seeking. But you know what's been unusual for me? This is the most... I spend a lot of time in solitude and in silence.
Right.
But this is the most where if I want to talk to somebody, there is nobody to talk to.
Yeah, right.
So I must admit that in the last 4 days, there's been a couple of pangs of loneliness.
Right.
That, you know, is unusual for me, because I usually have brief periods where I am talking with people. But I have decided, Paul, that unless I have a wonderful, intelligent conversationalist, I am lonelier with a person who is talking gibberish.
Wow.
I cannot. If you're talking gibberish, I'm sorry, I have no patience for you.
So would you ever go further out and literally live like the ancient monks in a cave or in a jungle by yourself? Would you go that far and isolate yourself that far out? I've always wondered what people do that.
For a week or two?
Yeah.
For a week or two, yes. I did that 2 years ago, just before COVID, when I went on my silent retreat, and I had 6 days that I was sequestered to a hut that you could have no computers, no phones,
right.
no books. You could have, they allowed you a notebook that you could handwrite in the notebook. And you had a 10 square foot plot outside your door of this one room hut. And you could go there, you could go over to the place to get water, and you could use the toilet.
Wow, sounds like prison. Sounds like prison.
Oh, it was totally delightful. Totally delightful.
Well, you like change, you like quiet and solitude, and you like going new places and finding new spots. Would you come back to this spot, or would you go to someplace else in Portugal?
I might go to someplace else in Portugal, although I'm really falling in love. You know, that was when you said have a regular spot. I'm falling in love with this apartment. This apartment is it's appointed so nicely, has no view. There's no view of anything. You know, you can get apartments that have, you know, the Tagus River is it goes through Spain, and you know, it's quite a famous river that have river views, but I don't have a view. I don't see anything. That was my ideal, is that I would have a garden view. I could sit and view the garden.
Yeah, I would think I'd want a garden view or something. I'd want to see something.
I don't have to see anything. I am just fine on my own.
So I'd be curious when you get back, because this isn't a forever stay. This is I don't know if this is a trial run at longer stays in foreign places or in Portugal, if this is leading to you buying a place in Portugal and living there part of the year, or whether this is just fun to get out of your regular space and find a new space. I don't know which of those it is, but I wonder, is it easy to come back once you drop out? Once you get acclimated to another culture, another cafe, another place, another space, is it easy just to pick up and leave and pick up where you were before to go to your old haunts, your old hangouts? Or does that...
Well, this is a new experience for me, so I really can't answer that, but I would say yes, it is, because it's not like I come back to an over-the-top busy life. You know, right. I still am semi-retired. You know, I still have, you know, our show and the blog that I write, and I'm still involved with the charity.
Right.
So I get involved with things, but I still have my time alone. It will be nice to be home.
I ask because the one experience in my life that was sort of magical, I haven't traveled nearly as much as you have. And I have a fear of flying that keeps me sort of from going out and doing things like you're doing here. But having said that, one time, many years ago, when I was in my around 30, I took what to me was a magical trip to a little country called Belize. And first I stayed on the island in the resort, went with a buddy of mine. And then we said, let's do something silly. And we literally rented a car and drove way up into the jungle near the Guatemalan border, way off the beaten path, and found a little place to stay and stayed there for a few days. literally just hanging out in the jungle with nothing, no nightlife, no nothing. And once I got back, I found it very difficult to get back into the swim of things, to pick up the pace, to be surrounded by traffic and noise and congestion and activity. Once I sort of got used to that, even for 3 or 4 days, once I accepted that, it was hard to just drop back. It was easy to drop out. It was hard to drop back in.
I'm not sure that will happen with me. That will. I have so much I want to do. You know, I wanted to write this book.
That's what I thought we were going to talk about. Yeah, had this vision of writing a book.
And I knew until about 3 months ago, I was perfectly clear on what I wanted to write in the book.
Right.
And now I have become almost totally unclear. And so I'm writing segments, but a title came to me, sort of a direction came to me. I have no idea of chapters and exactly how I want to do the direction, but I want to talk about this just for a moment.
Okay,
and then
sure.
We can wrap it up because
Right.
I know we don't have much time left. But right now, my working title is Mingling with Medieval Mystics.
Mingling with medieval mystics. There's something doesn't even occur to most of us. We don't even know who the medieval mystics are, much less mingle with them in their thoughts.
Well, you know, I have about 6 of them, you know, so I've got, you know, your really highly famous Francis of Assisi,
Right.
Teresa of Avila, John of the Cross, Meister Eckhart, Julian of Norwich, and then my favorite theologian, Bonaventure, who wrote in the 1200s and 1270, he wrote of the Trinity that the more I've read of the mystics later that came 200 years later, I could read their influence, Bonaventure's influence on them. Mm-hmm. And so the book will include some of Bonaventure.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but you're sort of in that same neck of the wood. Many of these mystics lived in Spain, Portugal, France, Italy, that sort of southern European environment here.
Well, John of the Cross and Teresa were both Spaniards. Mm-hmm. Francis of Assisi was Italian. Bonaventure was Italian, but went to school in Paris, I believe. And I'm not sure where Meister Eckhart came from, but Julian of Norwich, one of my favorite, is English. Mm-hmm. But they are European. But I came across a passage in Matthew that I've talked about for years, but it now seems so relevant to Americans and Christianity.
Okay.
And it's found in the 11th chapter of the Gospel of Matthew. And John the Baptist is in prison. Mm-hmm. So doesn't have long to live, doesn't know that, or probably knows that.
Right.
You know, he certainly is not expected to die the way he died. But he sent a message because Jesus was not acting like the Messiah. Now, I don't know what he was expecting. I don't know if he was expecting royalty or if he was expecting Jesus to make a big mark on the Roman political system, or
many did. That was the typical idea. The Savior is going to come and he's going to save us now, today. He's going to topple governments. Miracles are going to be everywhere. Armies of angels will follow him, and there will be obvious change. The earth will shake and tremble.
You know, that is the common interpretation, and of which I have no problem, except there is no biblical evidence what they were looking for.
Yeah.
It's just that they were not. So John sends his disciples to Jesus. And in Matthew chapter 11, and I think it goes to about verse 12, something like that. And I'll do it in my vernacular.
Right.
But I've read it in Greek and in English several times, several times. And John's disciples asked Jesus, "Are you the expected one, or should we look for someone else?"
Because you ain't acting like we expected.
Exactly. Even though John baptized him, heard God the Father speak, saw the dove come and land on his shoulder, and knows about Jesus' immediate temptation in the wilderness. John is very familiar with all that, but he's still not sure. Are you the one we're looking for? And Jesus' response is a response for us today in Western Christianity. He says, "Yes, I am the expected one. I just did not come in the expected way."
Yes, right.
And then he says, he goes further, and the Greek verb is scandalizomai, and Jesus says, "Blessed is the one who is not scandalized by my behavior," because his closest disciples were fishermen. They were just everyday blue-collar guys.
He hung out with a prostitute named Mary Magdalene, yeah.
Well, he hung out with several prostitutes.
Right.
And, he had dinner with prostitutes and drunkards. The Pharisees would say, "Who is this man?
Right.
What is he doing?" And in a society that was not very strong on women, he was very female-oriented. Now, it doesn't say that precisely, although there are so many references that it was the women who supported Jesus' ministry. It was rich women that supported his ministry. And so Jesus, think about this, when he came, and we're all familiar with his humble birth in a
manger.
In a manger.
Right.
In a stable, born laid to rest in what do you call them that they eat out of, that the cows eat out of?
A manger, yeah.
Yeah, it's a manger, but there's just
a trough, right? A little trough.
A trough,
right?
And then you have this mighty host of angels singing, "Glory, glory, glory is God in the heavens. Blessed is God, and blessed are people." So you have this extravagant proclamation by God of Jesus. But who does he say it to? He doesn't say it to Herod the king and to Caiaphas, the Jewish leaders. He says it to a bunch of nobody shepherds.
Yeah.
These guys just hanging around, watching their sheep at night. They're the ones that get the glorious proclamation. I think that has to do with where we are today and with our troubles that we're having political troubles. We're having prejudice troubles. We're having oppression of the poor troubles. We're having everybody is feeling oppression, whether you're poor or not. We are feeling like an oppressed society, and we're saying, where the hell is God? If God is love, how can God do this?
I'll go one step further. Why do we, like John the Baptist, expect the Savior to save us, to fix it, to correct everything, to lead us out of darkness, to conquer and overthrow all this oppression for us? When the Savior came, he basically said, "I'm not here to change anything. I'm just going to show you a way. I'm going to give you some ideas." He didn't.
I'm not going to change. I am not going to change the world. You know what I am going to change? Is your heart.
Yes. I'm here to change you, not the world. Right.
Jesus did not come to teach tidy little sermons. He came to raise the dead.
Yeah. He didn't come with a new set of rules to follow. He came with a new outlook on life. Well,
look how he redefined, in my terms, this is Charlie's terms, He redefined the 10 Commandments when he did the Beatitudes.
Yeah, right.
Blessed are those who mourn. Blessed are those who are poor in spirit. Blessed are those who are peacemakers. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for God. Not, it's blessed are those who have nothing. Blessed are those who are the meek. They have nothing, but they will have the kingdom of God, not just in the world to come, but in this world today.
And it's not...
My life today is different because of the work of God inside my heart.
And it's not the God of the Old Testament who, they prayed to smite my enemies, who closed the Red Sea on the Pharaoh as he's chasing the Israelites. He opens the Red Sea and they run into the Red Sea, and then the Egyptians follow and the sea closes upon them and they're wiped out. That's what we want God to do. Wipe out my enemies.
That is a very, very common way of viewing the Old Testament, but I don't read the Old Testament like that at all. I read the Old Testament as the people that were punished more than anybody, more than the pharaohs, were his followers.
That's true too. The Israelites suffered.
You know why they were punished? Is they were punished as a sign to say, I am God, because they were married to God. And when they worshiped idols, it was a form of adultery. It was a form of giving love to somebody other than God, and all God wants is love.
Right.
God yearns to love us even more than we yearn to be loved. And that is our greatest yearning in life, whether we know it or not, is to be loved, to be accepted, to be cherished. And that is what God longs to do. And yet God's people historically have refused to go to God to get that. And so that is what I read, a great book by Terence Fretheim that's called The Suffering of God, and how God suffers because of the brokenness of his people. He suffers with the brokenness of his people, so he is suffering at the same time. He suffers because of it. It hurts him. He suffers with them in their suffering, and he suffers for them, as was demonstrated on the cross. Is that the cross is the greatest humble form of suffering, not just to bring salvation to human beings, but to change the entire cosmos and to bring it back in alignment.
But why do we always think, whether it's a political savior, like we've seen recently among some people, or whether it's a religious savior, we're always looking for somebody to save us, and that means wipe out our enemies and change the world, to bring something to us. I can't change the world. I want somebody to come down and change it for me.
As long as they're doing that, they can also give me a Mercedes-Benz.
Why not? Why
I
not?
can drive around in.
Absolutely. I should prosper. There are people who believe in the prosperity gospel, and that God is there to give you things and do things for you. God is
our greatest problem is I am pro-ego and anti-ego. There is an ego that is so necessary that it builds up our esteem and who we are.
Right.
Our ego is very protective, wants to protect us from harm. So it does good, but in the protectiveness, it isolates us and makes us selfish and self-centered, and
right.
we go after what I call the 3 Ps: power, prestige, and possession.
Yes, absolutely.
That those become our goals in life rather than one thing that God looks for. One thing, and that is love. And that's a special, divine, caring, kind, compassionate, patient, gentle way of dealing with people.
Well, I think
so. That's kind of what I'm going to be writing about, Paul.
I think that'll be a fascinating look, and I think you can find a way to tie it to today, because in a way, on both the left and the right, we're looking for saviors. We're looking for people to save us from the evil of the others, and to smite the enemy, and to restore the kingdom, and to all the things that the Israelites hoped Jesus would do. Wipe out the Romans. Establish your kingdom here on earth. Happy days are here at last. And give us all the food in abundance we so richly deserve after suffering all these years and following you. And he came and said, I'm not giving you any of that. That's not what this is about. And they're like, what? I'm always struck by the one, it's a less, I can't quote the Bible like you do, but the one story, and I don't know where it appears in the New Testament, but some rich guy comes up to Jesus and says, I want to follow you. What do I do? And he says, go home and give away everything you have. And he shakes his head and thinks, and walks away. And I thought, that's all of us. I can't give away everything. Abandon my family, my career, everything I've fought for and done, my home and everything. That's nuts. Give it all away and just follow you? That's a hard ask.
Hard. Don't ask me that one. As much as I want to follow the Christ, I just say, there are limits here.
There are limits, exactly.
But if God puts on your heart to do that, see, I don't think that we are required to do anything that God doesn't put in our heart to do, and that's probably one of the biggest problem with religion, is that they want people to do things people don't want to do, don't like to do. And if you are intimate with God, which is the goal of the mystics, is intimate union with God, if you are intimately united with God, then those sorts of asks are not impossible. Now, I'm not there. I don't pretend to be there. I doubt that I will be there in my lifetime, but if I am, it will only be by grace.
Yeah.
And so let's wrap this up, because I know you have to go,
Yep.
and I just want to wrap it up with, even today, Jesus is the expected one. He just has not come in the way we expected and the way we wanted. And he says, don't be scandalized by me. Just accept my love.
Wow. Well, he placed something in your heart, this wanderlust, to go see the world and to not just run through it, but to stop and sit in one place and experience it in a way that most of us don't. I think it's fascinating. I think it's fascinating to watch you do this, and I'm curious as we check in over the coming weeks how it affects you, what changes occur, if any, and how it leaves you. Is it just a sense of awe and wonder? You're always talking about trying to find awe and wonder in the world. Wow, look at that building. Wow, look at this place. Wow, look at that steak. And then it just goes on to the next thing, or is it deeper than that? I don't know. We'll find out.
Well, we'll see. And one of the shows we're going to do is with Pam, and Pam will have an entirely different point of view, which will be
refreshing.
She's having a magnificent time.
She's traveling like we all want to travel. I want to see it all. I want to do it all. I want to experience it all. Charlie's just being. He's going and sitting someplace, like your friend Terry always says, and just be.
Yeah.
Well, be safe,
Paul.
And we look forward to the next round here next week.
Yep. And that's it for today. So let's thank everybody for tuning into the show. I hope this has been entertaining for you all and informative. And until next, this is Charlie Hedges signing off. Bye for now.